Pause, I swear! By Sarah1281. Chapter 35. On being forced to explain further. Needless to say, there were quite a few questions. It took a while to get through them all, but once that was over, with the added details, was enough to erode much of the non-time travelers' skepticism about the whole situation. Not that stopped them all from dragging one of the time travelers off to continue their discussion in private. Anko wanted to talk to Kakashi. Minato needed to understand just how bad things had been for Naruto without him. Sasuke and Itachi had some issues to work out, and Jiraiya and Tsunade really had nothing better to do than pester Sakura for more information.
So when exactly were you planning on telling me that you were a time traveler from an almost ridiculously different timeline where the Saindame had been in charge for all this time? Tsunade would become Hokage as soon as Naruto and Jiraiya found her. Obito and Rin were dead. We all thought Itachi was evil, and we barely knew each other.
Anko asked sweetly the minute they were safely inside their shared apartment. I was planning on mentioning it to you right after my students made tune-in, so the story about us time traveling, or if we were believed our reasons for said time traveling, wouldn't prevent them from passing the MSR. I can't imagine why I never did. Kakashi trailed off. Oh, wait, I did tell you literally the day after Team 7 was promoted, just like I said I would.
True,
Anko acknowledged.
But you also said that the only reason you were going to tell any of us was because Naruto slipped up and you couldn't cover how he knew how to go into sage mode. Besides, the only reason you were even there for all of the explanation was because your students made us wait for over 2 hours until you finally decided to show up.
It's my fault, really, Kakashi said mournfully. I never should have gotten them in the habit of waiting around for me for hours on end, or else they would have cracked and just told you themselves. Of course, given that was years and years ago, and presumably their later instructors wouldn't have had my tendency towards tardiness, the fact that they managed to stay in practice is rather impressive.
Is that a yes, I never would have told you if Naruto had used a different technique?
Anko demanded. Kakashi winced. Possibly.
I get why you don't want to tell the world. I really do.
Anko assured him.
People are liable to believe you, or they won't know how to act if they think you are telling them the truth. They'll look at you and suddenly everything they thought they knew about you is being called into question, and it will be weird. And considering that the world hadn't ended when you came back, and from what I can tell, you've done quite a bit to either neutralize or outright kill a lot of the people who would have gone on to cause problems in your future, it really isn't necessary to warn anyone of anything.
Suddenly, everything they thought they knew about you is being called into question, Kakashi repeated. Is that how you feel? Anko took a moment before answering.
A little. You have this whole separate history that I can never understand. I know how close you are with Obito. I can imagine how losing him would kill you. Then losing Rin and the Yondame on top of it? I can imagine, but I'm never really going to get it because as far as I've seen, you never did. You say we barely knew each other, and if that's the case, then I have to wonder, why would you go after me?
I lost everyone close to me in a very short period of time, Kakashi explained quietly. I was a prodigy who graduated at 5, as you know, which never does anyone any favors. My father was disgraced and killed himself, and I overcompensated, but that still wasn't enough to save anyone. I had a lot of issues, and so, honestly, the prospect of entering a romantic relationship, it just wasn't going to happen. The guy was always there to make sure I didn't steer completely away from human contact, and then my students came along, and even though there were many, many times that I thought they were more trouble than they were worth, particularly Sasuke when he was going through his crazy year after he technically killed Itachi, they certainly did their part in bringing me back to the land of the living.
And me?
Anko pressed, uncertain of what exactly she wanted to hear. Once my old team was saved, and I knew that even if they wouldn't necessarily be the same people I remembered, I would get my new team back. Things were different. I'd been through hell. I'd come back in one piece, and I highly doubted that I would have managed to make things worse than they had been. It's not like I planned for us to happen. It just did, Kakashi told her seriously. He smiled wryly. As horribly cliched as it may be, sometimes love does just happen. Naruto asked, fidgeting a little as he looked at his father, who had been staring at him from across their kitchen table for quite some time.
Because it's getting a little creepy!
Sorry, Minato apologized, shaking his head as if to clear it. I just can't believe, well, any of this.
The part about the time travel?
Naruto asked.
Because while I had kind of expected Kakashi to have already told you once I realized he'd spent a good decade living in the past, I can also sort of understand why you wouldn't want to. Or even how to convince everyone that it was true, for that matter.
No, I think I'm actually starting to believe you, Minato confided. You know far too much, both as a newly minted Chunin and as my son, who I wanted to keep away from some of Konoha's less than proud moments.
Then what's the mental stumbling block?
Naruto wanted to know. Just how bad was your childhood? Minato demanded. I mean, I knew it wouldn't be easy, and there was a sizable resistance to seeing you as the hero you are back in those early days. But by the time you were actually old enough to remember anything, the villagers had all come around. Naruto thought back.
The ninjas themselves were always professional, if unhelpful. It was the civilians who understood even less than the ninja did and lacked their discipline that caused most of my problems.
How bad was it, Naruto? Minato asked again, piercing his son with a gaze. Naruto merely shook his head.
You love this village, Dad! I love this village! For all that nobody understands how I managed that prior to the Chunin exams when things started to change! I don't want you to have to get all worked up over things that have never happened!
Minato sighed. You're right, I suppose. Still, how could things have been so bad for you? I was in the middle of telling Sarutobi-sama that I wanted you to be seen as a hero when Kakashi burst in informing him what I was planning on doing, and from what I understand, in the other timeline, I didn't make my wishes clear. Add that to the fact that Jiraiya was apparently alive and well. Why couldn't he have taken you in or something? He's your godfather. Naruto shrugged.
I really don't know. He never really got around to mentioning he was my godfather because had he done that, he would have had to explain why he couldn't be bothered to be a responsible adult and take me in. Oh, and that you were my father, which didn't come out until after his death. Still, I think it was mostly the fact he just couldn't be bothered.
What was he even doing that he couldn't take in his own godson until you were ready to become his apprentice? Minato wondered, already planning on yelling at his mentor later, even if the Jiraiya he'd been lecturing was one that was never called upon to take in his orphaned son and looking for ammunition.
I think he was keeping tabs on Orochimaru, and after he joined up, the flowery cloaked assassins,
Naruto informed him.
And while I'm not positive because I didn't find out about Itachi's true allegiance until both he and Erosinin were both dead, I think he was also with Itachi's contact.
Why do you keep calling the Akatsuki the flowery cloaked assassins? Minato inquired, genuinely curious. Their cloaks have clouds on it, if I recall correctly.
Because it makes them mad, and they make me mad!
Naruto said bluntly.
But then again, given that they kidnapped Gara and tortured him to death, he got better, but there was a unique set of circumstances that led to that, and then proceeded to hunt down all of the other Jinchuriki, including me. Maybe it's not surprising that I've never been very fond of them.
I see, Minato said. But what about now? Did we kill or take down all of them, or are there still members of the Akatsuki out there?
I'm not sure if all of them missing in on the original roster even joined up,
Naruto replied.
From what Kaguya was saying, I don't think Kitan was a member, for instance. Two people who I know were involved and not neutralized are Konan and Nagato.
Konan and Nagato? Minato repeated. Who are they?
They were the official leaders of Akatsuki, even if Madara was really the one pulling the strings.
Naruto revealed.
Of course, there's really nothing you can do to them legally, as they are the legitimate rulers of Amagakure following a coup and a civil war, I think. Nagato hates us because Konoha Ninja accidentally killed his parents one time, and I think Jutsu may have screwed him over once. Konan only hates us because Nagato does, so if we make an effort to, at the very least, not screw them over anymore and possibly offer some sort of aid, we should be able to neutralize them.
That might be something to consider, Minato agreed. Although, of course, I'll need to look into the situation more.
Don't bother sending a spy!
Naruto warned him.
It rains all the time in Amagakure, and the rain lets them know when someone who isn't supposed to be there arrives. Last time Jiraiya went, and Nagato killed him. Of course he feels my pain, but I think that's a pretty
named Nagato before. Minato mused aloud.
He was once Jiraiya's student!
Naruto explained.
Fun fact! He's the guy my namesake is based on in Erosinen's only child-friendly book!
And he managed to kill Jiraiya? Minato looked extremely concerned. Anyone that powerful was definitely someone to watch out for.
Nagato is insanely powerful, yes!
Naruto confirmed.
He kind of cheats, since he uses reanimated corpses and stays far away from the fighting himself, but doing so seems to take its toll on his actual body. He is the Rinnegan, you see, and he was able to stand up to me until I went 8 tails. That wasn't the best idea, but it did enjoy freaking him out.
That settles it. I am definitely going to be looking into this very closely the minute we're done with rebuilding and making sure there's no lasting damage to our alliance with Suna, Minato decided.
Oh, are you having problems with that since they halfway betrayed us?
Naruto asked, intrigued. Minato nodded. Among other things, they thought the best way to ensure peace was a political marriage between you and the previous Kasugagi's daughter, Tamari. All of the color drained from Naruto's face.
You said no, right?
Of course I said no, Minato assured his son. They're the ones who halfway betrayed us. Why should they get to make demands? Naruto let out a huge sigh of relief.
Oh, they got me! I thought future Shikamaru would summon my net and then also come back in time and kill me!
Itachi and Sasuke didn't go home, as they didn't want to risk Rin and Obito walking in at the wrong time. Instead, they headed over to the vacant but preserved Uchiha district and walked in silence for some time. So you've known the entire time, Itachi said finally. It depends on what you mean by that, really, Sasuke replied. Originally, there was no Naruto to pull off an over-the-top cover-up and pin the blame on someone he sincerely believes to be a child molester, and no Kakashi to back him up. There was only me, coming back from training to find a district full of bodies, and you, standing over Mom and Dad, doing your best to convince me that you were a psychopath and to try and push me into getting stronger, ostensibly so I could get vengeance on you. Madara said you always planned on dying by my hand, both so I could get the Mingekyo Sharingan to better protect myself, and so I could avenge our clan and be hailed as a hero. Is that true? I really did not have the rest of my life mapped out so fully, but I could certainly see that as a viable option, Itachi answered. Probably the best option. How? Sasuke demanded. How could me hating you and killing you possibly be the best option? Itachi answered the question with one of his own. You understand that I had to leave Konoha, correct? The clan could not be destroyed with no culprit. Everyone would panic over the security breach. With a lack of convenient blame claiming missing Nin, the person held responsible would have to be me. What about Madara? Sasuke challenged. He was involved, I know, and letting people know he was alive would have saved us all a lot of trouble in the end. How would I have known he was alive? Itachi inquired. Why hadn't I mentioned him sooner? How did I know that it was in fact really him, especially since he never took his mask off? It was rather unbelievable, but everyone knew I existed, and it provided the perfect opportunity for Konoha to place one of its own in the Akatsuki. We knew very little about it, but if it were truly run by Madara, Konoha was certain to feel its wrath at some point. But what about me? Sasuke pressed. Itachi cocked his head. You were 8, Sasuke. Do you really think you would have been better off growing up on the run, surrounded by missing Nin? Sometimes people become missing Nin for political reasons, but usually they are violent, amoral people that children should not spend vast periods of time with. I would have been better off with you, Sasuke insisted stubbornly. Would you have? Itachi wondered aloud. I somehow doubt it. Missing Nin have no future, you know. A group like the Akatsuki, while I am not the expert I seem to have been in your first timeline, would provide more of a direction and a better chance of survival by joining with other powerful missing Nin, but you would still have no options. I was not about to destroy your future any more than killing the clan already had. But they wanted to kill me, Sasuke pointed out. Only Danzo wanted to kill you, Itachi countered. Eddie clearly didn't. The council saw the benefits of keeping the Sharingan in existence, and you were young enough not to be a threat, or even remotely involved in the coup. I do not remember much of the Sendame, but if he was anything like Hokage-sama, then he would be more than willing to let you live, as you were so very clearly innocent. Alright, so maybe me staying in Konoha was for the best, Sasuke conceded grudgingly. But why was it so important that I hate you? I mean, I can understand that you really can't answer why you'd go so far to ensure that I would, since you haven't. But you must have had a plan for when I showed up already. Getting me on the path you wanted, since that was going to be the last I'd see of you for years, was a little too important to be left to improvisation. I had just ruined your life, Sasuke, Itachi explained. You were 8. You were far too young to be left on your own, but the clan needed to be stopped and I really could not stay. You needed a purpose, or I feared you would just waste away. You were in danger, even if you didn't realize it. Not only was everyone who wanted a Sharingan going to realize that between the two options they knew of, you were easily the more practical option, but Madara was out there, and I knew he would come after you the minute I was gone. You needed to get stronger, and if your hatred of me and desire to avenge the clan would save you, then so be it. You know, I think dying allowing me to hate you is the one thing I can't forgive you for, Sasuke said softly. You killed our family, but they used you, both our clan and the Konoha higher-ups. They used you, and you knew that, and it was a bad situation that never should have happened. It did, though, and it may very well have been inevitable. Once I learned the truth, I was already thoroughly sick of hating you, but you'd always been so careful to never give me a reason not to. Once I found a reason, I really don't see how I could have not forgiven you. So instead, you took it out on Konoha. Itachi sounded faintly disapproving. Sasuke winced. That was the year I was having a lot of problems. Suffice to say, it all got worked out eventually, and I'd really rather not talk about it. You were clearly having problems before if you abandoned Konoha for the likes of Orochimaru, Itachi noted. Sasuke scowled and crossed his arms. In my defense, I had a curse seal that was accentuating all of my negative emotions. Naruto had just taken down a transformed Gaara single-handedly while I could barely even move. You had just shown up because the Saitama had died to warn Danzo not to touch me and ended up putting me in a Tsukiyomi-induced coma. And to make matters worse, Kakashi had just asked me to give up vengeance. Those Oto Nin caught me at a really good time. You still should not have left, Itachi insisted. Sasuke shrugged. While I agree that the less time spent with Orochimaru the better, I got where I am today because of the path I took then. And besides, it's all worked out. And to get back to your original question, in this timeline, I believed that Orochimaru was responsible for the massacre until I was 11, and came back the day that Danzo and the council died. Did you kill them? Itachi asked sharply. Would you really want to know if I did? Sasuke shot back. Bear in mind that by the time I heard they were dead, I still hadn't recovered my memories of this timeline prior to coming back, and had no idea you were still in Konoha. Itachi was quiet for a moment. No, I would rather not know, he conceded. So Jiraiya and Naruto forced me to become Godame, huh? Tsunade asked the moment the three of them were alone in her office.
I guess so,
Sakura confirmed.
I personally wasn't there, but Jiraiya said it was all him. Then Naruto said all he did was get poisoned, and so he was really the one who did all the work. All I know is that it involved you kicking Orochimaru's butt.
Poisoned?
Jiraiya moaned.
Jiraiya the Gallon should never get poisoned. It's just bad form. I'm going to blame Tsunade Amy for that one, since you obviously wouldn't know.
I kicked Orochimaru's butt? I suppose that couldn't have been that bad then, Tsunade decided. Still, Hokage. My great-uncle warned me about that position. That talk gave me nightmares about never-ending piles of paperwork for a year.
Really?
Jiraiya asked, surprised.
I thought you just didn't want the position because of Dan and Nawaki.
No, Tsunade shook her head. It was definitely hearing about the paperwork. Since Dan and Nawaki's dreams of becoming Hokage didn't go so well, that just furthered my resolve. Thank you so much, Sakura, for saving me from the horrors of Hokagehood. She paused, then continued nervously. You do think I'll be safe from being Odame, right? Because if not, I can resign from the council and the hospital and leave right now. Hokage-sama is a lot younger than Saitama-sama was, Sakura was quick to remind her mentor, so he probably won't be dropping dead of old age anytime soon. And Saitama-sama was killed by Orochimaru, kind of, and Orochimaru was neutralized by Itachi, so that won't be an issue. With any luck, Hokage-sama can stay in charge for a while, and Naruto will become the Godame. If not, just make Kakashi do it. Trust me, he's had experience, and Naruto likes the idea of being Rokodame better anyway. If you say so, Tsunade said suspiciously, making a note to herself to have an escape plan ready if need be, much as she had when it looked like Minato might die during the QB attack.
Hey, I've been wondering something.
Jiraiya spoke up.
Since Naruto basically united and saved the entire ninja world, does that make him the child of prophecy that I was supposed to teach? I always thought it would have been Nagato. I mean, the Rinnegan. I didn't even think that really existed before I met him. I heard he died, though.
He didn't die, Sakura informed him. He kind of went crazy and set himself up as Pain, the leader of Amagakure and Akatsuki, and mostly speaks through his friend Yahiko's dead body that he controls. But he's not dead. Neither was Conan, for that matter. And I think the consensus on the prophecy issue was basically he and Naruto were both the children of prophecy, but you should probably ask him about that. There was silence for a moment. And that is exactly why I keep telling you that taking in apprentices and then teaching them to go off researching is a bad idea. Tsunade said triumphantly.
Exactly?
Jiraiya asked skeptically, raising his eyebrows. Tsunade nodded. Exactly.
Maybe I should have listened to Orochimaru and simply killed them.
Jiraiya said sarcastically.
It certainly seems like it would have saved a lot of problems.
I'm not sure I would go that far, Tsunade objected. If this whole mess has taught us anything, it's that listening to Orochimaru is a bad idea, and we should try and avoid that wherever we can.
You didn't answer my questions,
Jiraiya pointed out. Do you think I have done that?
If Orochimaru hadn't been the one to suggest it.
If this whole mess has taught us anything, it's that listening to Orochimaru is a bad idea, and we should try to avoid that where we can.